This is Irvin Griffin. I have the Nature Girl 30 with me, and we just got finished watching Wonder Man. For those of you that have followed me since the Mr. Griffith days, you know I'm a comic fan, and particularly Marvel. I mean, to tell you how far back I go. I was a little kid when my first exposure to the Amazing Spider-Man was on the Electric Company called Spidey Superstories, which, by the way, belated condolences and rest in peace to Danny Seagram, the guy that used to play that version of Spider-Man that didn't talk at all. He only talked with balloons, word balloons over his head. But she's more of a DC fan, particularly a DC villains girl. She's only gotten into Marvel really because of me, and I am familiar with some of the DC lore. Not a lot of it, but I am familiar with some of it. But today's topic, and we're not going to take very long with this because I got other things to do. But Wonder Man, which recently came out on Disney Plus, which didn't get a lot of fanfare. We just finished watching it. My personal take on it is it's definitely more of an indie type feel. It's not really your traditional superhero, but strangely enough, and it could be because of the two lead actors, I actually liked it. Is it the best show I've ever seen? No. But now, does it apply really to the main MCU? No, but it's got a strange charm to it, and I have to credit the two lead actors. I forgot. I know the guy that's Trevor. He's Sir Ben Kingsley. I can't think of the brother's name, but I kept thinking to myself, if he wasn't playing this character, who could I see him as? I kept thinking, Luke Cage, maybe. But my girlfriend actually came up with it. Hey, instead of Mahershala Ali, if you were going to do Blade, why did you get this guy?
Exactly. I think it's Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. And I had to look him up because I forgot. And honestly, the costume of Wonder Man, for some reason, his speech, his dialogue reminded me a lot of Wesley Snipes' legendary version of Blade in the films. And if we really wanted to have a better version of Blade, it is not Mahershala Ali. Nothing against him. He will always be Cottonmouth.
Yeah, for those of you who've seen Luke Cage.
In the Netflix
he'll always
version,
be Cottonmouth.
He will always be Cottonmouth. And he's more of a thug. While this version, Yahya Abdul-Mateen actually has the look of Blade. If he could be his son, you can tell that he looks just like Blade, so that could work. But the show in itself, now he knows about Wonder Man.
Yes.
I don't know about Wonder Man, so his view is going to be different from mine. But I don't think that Marvel should have been involved in this at all. This is an indie film. An indie film about a 50-ish-year-old man struggling to be the actor he wants to be and get that role that cements his legacy in Hollywood.
And it's not unheard of in Hollywood. I mean, see Samuel L. Jackson, who was in nothing but bit roles until about mid to late 90s.
In my opinion, Pulp Fiction kind of made him the star that we know him now. And that's just me personally. But the thing is, the one thing that both myself and probably many other people have really criticized Hollywood for doing, especially during the woke era, which is slowly dying, thank goodness. But we question why they race swapped. And this is kind of what they did with Wonder Man. We just saw a review that was done by Darius Unlimited, which he actually does have a valid point. They could have talked about this topic. What Hollywood does a lot with gender swapping and race swapping. The original Wonder Man was white, but they made this version in the film black, and they never really explained that. Why they did it. Is this something that is palpable for the audience? And the only thing that they kind of touched on was the fact it was for modern audiences. That's the only thing they touched on.
Yeah, and we've seen this before. I mean, it's not unheard of. Go back and look at Daredevil from 2003, the Ben Affleck version, where they race swapped the Kingpin with Michael Clark Duncan, or Michael B. Jordan if you want to go something more recent, Fantastic Four 2015,
Let's
which,
not talk about
which
it.
by the way, avoid that movie.
Yeah.
People can talk up the junk about the Fantastic Four in movies all they want. I would recommend the versions from the 2000s, the recent version, heck, even that 90s version. I would say dare to look at that before that 2015 version.
That movie.
Everybody that's been following my channel knows I hate that version of the Fantastic Four from 2015. And I could go, and I've gone into big rants about that film. But what I was getting at though, is there was a race swap there. And I always felt like that could have been a good secondary story if you would have put some effort into it. With Johnny Storm and the father, Franklin Storm, being black, but the sister, Sue, being white, other than mentioning she was adopted from Russia, there was no real story effort put into it. You easily could have made that a good secondary thing. I mean, there was potential with 2015. I will give it that. There was potential, but they didn't follow in on it.
But
and
that's usually the problem, though. The thing is, when it comes to race swapping, it's always going to be a touchy topic, especially for black people. They don't want to even mention it because they're like, well, that means you don't want me in there. Here's the thing, and I'm going to touch on this briefly. If you have to insert a black person into a major role, that means that you believe that they're not good enough to have their own character. That's my perception of it. You want to have your own character that happens to be black, not a black character inserted into a major role. That's an insult.
Although, going back to Daredevil 2003, and then we'll get back on Wonder Man, going back to that one, Michael Clark Duncan conveyed the intelligence and the intimidation of the Kingpin. Exactly. Now, do I think Vince D'Onofrio does that better? I'm going to be honest. Yeah. But as far as the visual menace, if this guy, may he rest in peace, by the way, talking about Michael Clark Duncan, if he walked up on you, you'd be like, whoa, okay. Oh, here's my land deed. You want me to mow the lawn for you?
Oh, goodness. Michael Clark Duncan had the look of the Kingpin. Not only that, he had the intelligence and the charisma of the Kingpin, which a lot of people let that slide because the essence of that character was still there.
Yes.
So to be honest with you, I don't mind if it's race swapped unless the essence of that character is not stripped away. It wasn't in that film. That's why I kind of let it slide there. Even though Vincent D'Onofrio did it better in the Netflix series. But going back to Wonder Man, that is something they actually could have touched on about the fact that they made him black. Because he portrays the role so well. He kept the essence of Wonder Man because this is an actual character he loved as a kid that he and his dad remembers watching in the films in the 80s. Now, the one thing that kind of gave me a little bit of an issue is the fact that he was like, 12 years old in the 80s? Which means he has to be in his 50s now? So I'm like, you're telling me that you spent nearly 30 years struggling as an actor in California, and not have a side
job of some kind?
Not even a side hustle, and you're able to survive? No wonder your woman left you. I mean, sorry, but the fact that you had all this trying to be an actor with no side hustle for 30 years, still not making it work. That kind of blows my mind. And being 50, probably maybe a few years older than Irvin, that you're struggling as an actor, but you can't even get that to work. How does that work? Not only that, the power element should not have been inserted in this because they didn't even explain where it came from. They only showed what happened to Doorman, but they never really explained what happened to Wonder Man.
Yeah.
And this isn't Marvel.
Yeah. What totally carries this, because if you're expecting something super powered fight or him becoming a hero, let me tell you something. This ain't that show. That said, I do applaud it for trying something different. And I'm going to tell you right now, what carries this, I've said a similar thing when I discussed the 1970s Spider-Man starring Nicholas Hammond. Hammond and a couple of other actors carry that show. With Wonder Man, I forgot the brother's name again, but I know it's Sir Ben Kingsley that plays the part of Trevor, aka the Mandarin, who a lot of people wanted to be the Mandarin, but that's a whole nother subject. But those two carry that whole show.
Yeah.
Those two, that's the only thing I would tell you to watch it. Watch it for those two. Those two carry that show. Yeah. There's a reason they're the leads, and they're the leads justifiably.
Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, as well as Sir Ben Kingsley, had an amazing chemistry that made the show work. The whole superhero element should not have worked, and it still doesn't, in my opinion. It's kind of like sticking a square peg into a round hole, but they actually took a jackhammer and literally just shoved it into that hole and made it work.
But those two, I'll call them Yahya. Mr. Yahya and Sir Kingsley, they made that show work. Even with the super, I shouldn't call it ridiculous, but even with the superhero elements in it, it shouldn't have worked. It should have been another failure like Echo, like She-Hulk, like Ironheart. Sorry to the black folks that might get mad at me or call me out of my name and stuff. Sorry to y'all, but Ironheart sucked. No. Sorry. I'm not, just because I'm black doesn't mean I'm going to support it. If you want to fight for, say, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and over time I haven't become a fan. I at the beginning I did support that, but Regina has always been outspoken, especially that last episode. What's that line that hasn't aged well? You got to do better, Senator.
I will forever mock that whole line.
Yeah. But even Falcon and the Winter Soldier had redeeming qualities.
No, it didn't.
To me it had some, compared to Ironheart. They had redeeming qualities. WandaVision had redeeming qualities. Agatha all around had redeeming qualities. All along had redeeming qualities. Even She-Hulk, and She-Hulk was one of the worst shows, but even that had some redeeming qualities.
She-Hulk wasn't as bad as Ironheart, though.
No. I could actually still go back and look at, she knows the episode I look at, the one with Daredevil, but I could even go back and look at the other episodes, and I could at least have fun, poking fun at what's messed up in it. Echo even had potential, but they just the showrunner kind of crapped all over it.
But
that had potential to be good. The only
difference with all of those shows is that those shows were Marvel. They were 100% Marvel. They had a villain.
Yeah.
Whether the villain was cartoony or had their own ideas of how the world works.
True.
That they were in it. Then you had the superhero element. The fact they had a power, they wanted power to do good, but of course it backfires on them, but they have redeeming qualities towards the end, or a redemption arc. Everything that we just named was Marvel. This was not Marvel because, number one, it had no villain. It had the government. And of course, the government somehow got to be the villain, but they weren't technically a villain. They were trying to protect the environment from superheroes that can't control themselves. And there was a superpower element in it, but not a superhero element in this. Simon did everything he could to hide this power from the world, because if they found out he had it, he wouldn't have a career.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be able to feed himself.
And without giving away too much, there is an episode 4 called Doorman, that explains why Simon is doing this. Because it talks about another character that we only see once, but it explains why Simon is doing that.
But Simon didn't know the full extent after he actually looked it up on YouTube of what happened to Doorman and how it led to be in that situation. It was kind of sort of like the Sokovia Accords. The aftermath of what happened in Sokovia was the reason why it was, whatever.
Sokovia.
The Sokovia Accords. Like, the aftermath of the Sokovia is what happened with the Sokovia Accords, and that's kind of what put all superheroes under a watchful eye. In this case with Simon, it makes sense why he's hiding it, but they never explain how he got there in the first place, how he got this power. How, and not only that, this power led to a huge rift between him and his family. And there's a reason why his brother hates him. But they never really dive into that either. The thing is, this should not have been a Marvel film at all. This was an indie film that people could relate with. You had a early 50s man struggling to make it work, not good in his relationships, not good at his social skills at all. The guy was as rigid as a board. He was pretty much to himself, and he was borderline narcissistic. And he was a jerk. Let's be honest. There was nothing here about this guy. He was a jerk. But he had an arc. He was human. That's why people love this. But this was not a Marvel film. It should have never been one.
Now, I ain't gonna lie. This is probably gonna go down as one of my guilty pleasure type of shows to watch. It's not something I'll watch every day, but it's something that once in a while, I'll watch a little Wonder Man. Because I kind of not only fell for the guy, I understood why he was the way he was. Now, was he a jerk like Regina said? Yeah. Now, was he Jessica Jones level? No. He certainly wasn't Riri Williams level a-hole.
No. He was borderline Riri.
Yeah.
He was borderline Riri. He was a narcissist. By no shape or form he was. And that he got in his own way.
Yes.
It took him to have to get over a lot of hurdles and get a lot of setbacks for him to straighten up. So yeah, he was borderline Riri, but he actually did grow as a character.
Yes,
I will say
that's the difference between him and Riri. He actually grew as a character, and he actually made effort to learn from his mistakes.
But I will say this, the ending was an epic fail. Because it could have been something. Now, was it as bad as Ironheart? No. Was it as bad as Echo? No. Was it as bad as She-Hulk? No. But it was still bad nonetheless because it didn't explain anything. He went through great lengths to pretty much ruin his entire life after getting a clean slate, never really explaining why. Only for it just to end. And we're not going to get another season of this. So how it ended, it didn't close the book. It left it open. And that's what really irritates me, because they have done this more than once when we know we're not gonna get another season. They did this with Agatha. They did this with Ironheart. And now they're doing it here.
Yeah, and Wonder Man actually was maybe around the same time as Ironheart. And then they decided, this is not going to work. And they decided to just dump it instead of do the DC Batgirl thing and just consider it a tax write-off. This one, though, as racial swap experiments go, this one was not bad. It probably should not have been a Marvel film, but it is what it is. That said, like I said earlier, the two leads, Mr. Yahya and that's what I'm gonna call him, because I can't remember his
Abdul Martin the second.
Yeah,
we'll say I will give the actor his
and Sir Ben Kingsley. The two leads saved this series.
But if you want to skip it,
But if you skip it, I understand.
It's understandable. For me, I have no reason to go back and watch this again. I'm not that interested in it. I don't know much about Wonder Man, except for the fact that his consciousness was inserted into Vision, and that's what Wanda fell in love with. But now Wanda's dead, and Vision's gone, so that makes no sense.
Yeah, not to mention the original Wonder Man, he got his powers from a little infamous villain we've already seen in the MCU, by the name of, you know him. He was famous for doing a little dance in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. By the name Zemo. Yeah.
Yeah, he was going the long way around, so we just want to throw it out there. But
yeah,
if you don't want to watch this again, we understand. But if you find some relation in the character of Simon, which Irvin just explained that he does, I understand why you want to watch it again. Me, I'm gonna no.
Yeah, but it's not something I would watch every day. It'd be something if I was bored.
It's not Logan type level.
No.
It's not Logan type level. And he watched Logan like 6 times.
Oh, yeah. That was during my little bit younger hardcore days. Yeah, older me, if I saw Logan now, I'll be like, great film, but I gotta be in a certain mood to watch that again.
So I guess we could just probably say that for Wonder Man, it's great for not being a Marvel film.
Yes.
But as a Marvel film, it is not that great.
Yes. And that's pretty much all we got to say on it. So have a good afternoon. Stay safe out there.